And hello, welcome to today's video. Like the title says, can I fix Call of Dragons? That's the big question. I've done a video, as you guys might have checked out, where we talk about problems and the accessibility of Call of Dragons. And you know what? I'm going to go over a little bit more and how I think I could basically suggest different ways to improve the game and maybe make it something fun and actually engaging for all of the players in the community. Hello guys, yes, smash the like button and subscribe for more daily videos with me, MrSneakyy, the one and only official Call of Dragons content creator, and we're here today talking about how I am suggesting different ways how we can improve Call of Dragons, and we're going to start straight away in this region selection, or if you can guess it, the migration area, right? Because in the last video I didn't really talk too much on migration because I know it was a hot topic. We've talked about it plenty on the channel and in and out of Discords, so I thought let's just talk about how I feel about the current migration system, and on top of it how I want to basically solve it in almost like a two-stage process, which would be a really cool potential way of making this work, right? So right now, as you guys know, in the migration area, or when you go to migrate, it always works at the current moment in your division, right? So this is your division, and it's based on normal, active, crowded, or full. And this is determined by, depending on your power, your merits, activity. There's like actually so many different factors that key in to your account being eligible to joining certain servers over other players, right? So it's a really crazy way of getting it involved, right? And it basically doesn't allow, as you can imagine, players to try and migrate and maybe join their friends who maybe started a couple of months down the line, and maybe they're in a different division cluster, but you know they want to play with them but they can't play with them, right? Or maybe they're in a nasty hostile zone and they just want to get out of that division and obviously find somewhere new and maybe more top tier professional, right, to play in, right? So what would I suggest on this, right? Because at the moment it is kind of a mess, right? It's kind of a mess on how migration works. So my way I'm going to come across migration, and again, this is my opinion, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. You guys might like it, you might not. Just put your comments below, as obviously I'm going through this, and maybe even put a little timestamp so you know what points you're replying to. It makes it a little bit easier for me to come through the suggestions in those comments. But imagine now what we're going to do is go through this new cross-play migration system in May, right? Obviously, the sooner the better it would happen. It obviously makes everyone happy. However, the way I would actually set this up, I would actually structure it into a two-step process. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but it's going to be a two-step process. And the first step is basically what's going to happen initially, what's right now. And what I mean by that is once you come out of your season. So what I mean by that is if you come out and you go into this season overview, basically if you're coming out of your season 1 and maybe you're in servers maybe from like 323 going all the way down to maybe like 297 or so, half the list and half down, split it 50-50. And you basically get those servers to end similar, and it allows obviously cross-server migration for them. But what I'm going to propose is basically pretty simple. Any server in this season at the end should basically allow you to migrate into their alliance, and that's the key thing I'm going to try and emphasize here. We're going to try and migrate into an alliance, and what that means is this first stage of this is we are going to obviously set up this cross-global crazy migration, right? So you're going to see maybe like, for example, BDO or GG or Noir, any of the big alliances, TFS, for example, they might migrate from where they currently are to maybe a very quiet dead server. This could be something like 2, maybe let's just argument's sake, something like 49, just hypothetically, right? So they all migrate into 49, and this is going to happen everywhere, right? You're going to start seeing everyone in stage 1 kind of cross-migrating and setting up their almost family alliances in their own individual servers, and that's going to obviously set up basically almost like, if you want to call it like a power hierarchy, meaning obviously you're going to get some top tier 5 alliances, but you see that in other games like Rise of Kingdoms anyway, and it's not bad as long as obviously you structure it in a nice format, right? So what we'll do is, obviously in stage 1, we're going to allow players to freely move, cross-platform, or I'll say cross-platform, cross-migrate into, obviously, any server at the end of your season, you know, in your current area. So again, if you're in T1, at the end of T1, any of these players in these servers would, in theory, be able to migrate into any of the other divisions at the end of this season, right? So that's stage 1. So what does stage 2 entail? Stage 2 is pretty simple. What I would actually do is then employ some brand new migration rules and actually server/kingdom rules. And what that means is, what I would allow it is, when you come to matchmaking in the next season, generally, let's be realistic, it's the top 5 alliances. Sometimes when you go into the top 10, you're just filling loads of farm accounts and farm servers, and it's just not really healthy for PvP combat. But generally, the top 5 alliances is gonna be fighting. That means if each alliances has 200 members, that's over 1,000 players fighting for each individual server. And if we just took, again, a hypothetical and counted here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 servers right there, meaning 8,000 players are going to be fighting at any given time on the new patch or in the new server, right? Because you're only excluding like the top 4, maybe the top 5, so then you're getting, you know, 10,000 players playing in a season. And what that allows then is the alliance leaders now to have a little bit more control. And what I'm going to say is, I would employ some sort of rules, some sort of way to allow a alliance to be in control of migration. And what I mean by that is, maybe I'm migrating out and I'm looking to join one of these servers, right? And the way I kind of envision it, if you can imagine it, to tie it all together, is almost like Roots of War. So when you're in Roots of War, you can imagine you've got a team of 30 players, right? And you pick your 30 players. What I'm suggesting is a way you can easily maybe mass select your R3s and maybe your R2s, and then when it goes to R1s, you can individually select those players. But what I'm saying is, you could select 200 players that you know are going to be in your alliance fighting for next season through this cool migration, almost like a roster at the end of, you know, a season, like a draft almost, which is kind of cool in, you know, like a free agent market and stuff. So that's what I kind of want to suggest for like the migration. It's a little bit more complex, I know, than you probably thought, but I would really enjoy that. Just a way that an alliance like myself, you know, we could be in this alliance right now, and you could be migrating into my alliance, and it means then in the future, when it comes to matchmaking, the matchmaking doesn't need to be too much based on the servers, really, right? Well, it can be, but it's on the top 5 alliances there, right? So you could easily make the matchmaking more viable, because you can see in that cluster of 5 what the power is in total, how it's spread across, and then you can make a very fair, obviously, matchmaking season in the future, right? So that's the first thing. That's how I want to say it. I want to improve Call of Dragons. That's just simply allowing, you know, more free movement for the player. Obviously, is a quick TLDR in short. Nice little movement of players allows you to just cross migrate where you want. But at the end goal, it's going to be in charge of the alliances. I kind of want the alliances to be in charge, and not realistically like a king role or like a queen role where it's only one person for the entire server. It'd be much better if it's you know, each alliance in that top 5 has their own reasonable doubt, right? And it's kind of cool because even then, you know, you could talk about it in certain seasons where maybe some people want to take time off. They can migrate down into like, you know, you rank 6, 7, 8 alliances and players come up, you know, and it's just simple as that. It's just easy management that way, right? So I hope that comes in. Who knows? Let me know if you like that idea of kind of like a Roots of War, almost like team base of like selection when it comes to migrating in the future, and like being cross migrating, you know, allowing it, you know, I could apply for BDO can see my application, goes, yeah, we'll take you in, but if to take you in I need to kick one of these players, so I could remove this player out and make him a free agent, obviously send a mail or something in regards to do that. And that's just like a quick, easy hypothetical. And that's how easy I think the migration period could be for a player experience. Just that easy. Honestly, I can apply. You can see if I meet the criteria. Maybe do an interview, whatever you want to do. And if I do, then obviously they have players that they're going to remove and they become free agents themselves. And they can look for any alliance again within that cluster of like season, right? So that's my take. So let's go into the next one, where I think it's going to be more important. It's just like the way you fundamentally play the game now, right? So we've gone kind of over the social, I'd say, aspect of Call of Dragons, but now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the gameplay, how you can improve Call of Dragons to make it just more engaging for a player to go into. So when we look at Call of Dragons gameplay, right, the whole premise of it is, you know, we're trying to move towards the end on this zone, capture the Frost Dragon, and obviously take control of it, right? That is the gameplay mechanics, right? But when you're in between that zone, the biggest problem that most players face is basically, if you're especially like a lower power player, you might go into fighting for maybe an hour or two, and then you're basically spending 2 weeks out of zone. So you might have teleported out of this zone into a, you know, zone back down here, all the way going into zone 1 potentially, and just farming away until you can heal the troops to come back, right? And in between there, even when there's no fighting, maybe when you're in the early stages between these zones and you might have stomped your opponents, again, there's no real way of promoting fighting, or there's no real benefit of doing that. And I think that's just down to, personally, the events and the rewards structure to the game. Because again, as we've kind of emphasized in the other, you know, video, you don't really earn too many hero sculptures. And the thing is, I reckon, again, runic statues could potentially be a fun experience if you made it something worth the player's time. And I'm talking about when we're looking at this, you know, proving grounds, you're spending so many points to get literally only 15 sculptures, which is crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, I would prefer it to be so much more given, because there's no real achievements, there's no real end of season, you know, quests that you complete similar to like a seasonal chapter in like Rise of Kingdoms. So what you can do at the moment is basically allow it, so, you know, 5k, maybe you get 5 sculptures. At 20k, maybe you get 10 sculptures. 30k, maybe it's 10 sculptures again. And then up in the bigger ones, maybe it's like 20 and 20, right? The big numbers. So in total, you could get what? 20, 60, 70, like 80 sculptures, which seems so much more, obviously, crazy to give a player in essence. But you got to think, not everyone's going to be able to get 80,000 points in the season if everyone's fighting for control. And that's what you kind of want, right? You want a reason to fight for control for this, over just the quick little extra stamina buff that you're gaining, right? You need to make it worth your while, and make it obviously an end of season reward, or, you know, a seasonal reward or venture throughout. So that's one reason, or one way I'd, you know, improve already, if you was looking at season 2 specifically, the gameplay of it and how you can structure rewards to actually be fair to players and make it so, you know, like, you might not even get all of it, right? You might not get all of those different types of rewards, but you are going to be engaged in the combat, which is the most important thing, right? So what you can also do, which I thought of, which is kind of maybe a cool, maybe new seasonal gimmick or something, but there needs to be more ways of players of doing stuff, right? So one thing I've already suggested in the other video was with the pets. I think pets is a really fun thing and could be a really amazing mechanic, but the problem is it's too restrictive, right? So straight away, if you allow players to capture 20, 25 pets in a day, it might sound crazy, but that's engagement. That means I can go and capture a load of pets in maybe an hour or two, maybe 3 hours. It depends how long it's going to take me to get the ones I want, right? But I'm going to grind my ass off and engage into that. And the cool thing by doing this is it will support then the structure of the trade store, because the problem with the trade store in the future is, how I feel, is players won't have enough skills personally to actually put on the trade store to sell to other players and make actual, ancient coins. And people might not buy them because of how hard they still are to obtain, right? And I think that is the problem. And if you look at other games again, like RuneScape, one of the OGs MMOs back in the day, the whole game is a pure player-to-player trading system, and you will see over time certain skills will be cheaper than they should be, because guess what? They're just not that good because you can get access to them so early. But that stuff is really good for a free-to-play player and a low spender, because it means this thing, instead of being 120 coins, could end up being at a market price of like 40 coins, which is what you expect something to be at this super low tier, which doesn't really do that much damage for players. But it's an entry. It allows you to enter the mechanic of war pets and even the ability to sell and buy all the skills, right? So that just showcases another way you can engage players by just doing one small tweak in one area here, and it can actually have like a domino effect, allowing players to actually enjoy more and more of the game. And on top of this, let's go into more, right? Because we're still looking at this screen, you're probably wondering how we can engage you even more. I'm thinking of maybe something in a season, and it's going to be maybe, a little hypothetical here, but imagine a season, right, where you go into a special zone, right? So you're in a special zone, and it's probably the size of this Camelid, right? But it's fully open fields, and there can be, mountains like this and maybe some rivers, but there's no way to fully divide the entrances from each other, right? But the whole purpose of this area is it's going to be a high risk, high rich zone for players. And what I want that to be is more like, imagine you could zoom in here, instead of 7 and 6 tiles, these were like level 9 and 10 tiles. Or maybe there was a special gimmick in that season where you got a special, tile or resource or something that needed to be, progressed for just the story purpose. But what I would like to see, though, which is where we're going on from this, is maybe when you're in this zone, that these are bounty tiles. And what these bounty tiles do is you as a player can farm them, right? And you can obviously get hit and attacked, and that's fine, right? But the cool thing about the season would be more of, and I think this is where maybe farm killers would enjoy it, and obviously maybe non-farm killers could enjoy it too, is if you successfully farm the full reserve timer. So this is like a 1.1 million. If you get that entire resource, right, your actual match, so any of your gatherers, will come home safely, no matter what. However, what will happen is this tile will go into a special timer, and this timer will be like maybe between an hour or maybe an hour and a half long, maybe just to give players time. And what this timer does is it ticks down. And basically, once it ticks down, if you have still been successful and basically no one's touched the tile, what would happen is you would gain like an additional maybe 200,000 resources. However, the players, what they could do is obviously attack your tile and deny that. And by doing that, what they could do is deny that resource, and those players could gain that resource attached to their march, right? Nice little cool little feature where you can actually make farm killing maybe a fun game mode or fun interactive thing where maybe, you can implement it somehow into a season, maybe into like a different unique game mode. I'm just suggesting, like, look, this is ways that I'm thinking as a content creator myself, like how you could implement new ways to engage the player in events into the season, just cool gameplay things, right? Because that's the problem when we look at the game, right? We don't have enough engagement between fights, or there's not enough stuff for the player to feel like they can grind and enjoy, because that's the one, just to be honest, that's the real thing, right? Players want to grind content and just enjoy playing the game for long periods of time and feel like they're getting somewhere compared to other games, right? So let's go into another point into this and we'll finish up the video on how I think you can improve Call of Dragons in 2024. So it is, as you can imagine, the events. We have kind of like touched on it throughout the video a little bit, and it's the rewards and just general events in the game. I just think, personally, there's better ways you can engage players into these events and get free-to-players to get access to them. And even in theory, and it know sounds bad, but you've got to think this is a game. They need to make money, guys. And we obviously want to, like, potentially, like, invest money into the game to make it, you know, a better game overall over time. The thing is, there's no real, like, fun entry or reward or anything to do with actually these events. If you look at them in reality, they're just basically copies of themselves, right? The Wheel of Destiny is just a copy of the Lucky Spin. It just works a little, it looks just a little bit different, but you still gain chances of getting these 4 heroes one-time unlock before, obviously, they come out. The Riches of Forest is basically like the Forge of Light, or even worse, shall we just say, very similar to the Universal Artifact Companion, right? I can obviously summon a artifact here and unlock it. Obviously, I can spend 10 keys, or I can spend 6,000 gems in order to roll this. Or we can do the same thing for Riches of the Forest, which is the exact same, but instead, you're going to get access to Rattle Spear and obviously these newer, let's just say artifacts in the game, right? But the problem is, again, you get 50% off, which is cool. And if you went to spin this, it's nice, right? You get a nice 50% off. But then you've got the Forge of Light event, which is basically the same thing, but in a different form. And the problem is, what I think what you could do to improve personally these style of events is actually tie, I know it sounds crippling, but actually tie some sort of quest line to these certain ones. So maybe Riches of the Forest, because it is named this, like Riches of the Forest sounds like a really epic, you know, event for artifacts where I could potentially earn these 4 different ones. So why not make it, instead of just being, you know, Riches of the Forest, instead it's like a leaf token or something. And similarly, you can buy these as a spender and get obviously value in like the daily bundle, or the, should I say, the value bundle for the week that will appear, which always generally appears for these style events, like you can see here for the Wheel of Destiny, right? So you could make one of these for that Riches of the Forest event explicitly, but on top of that, what I would rather like to see is maybe like a little area around here, because it's so empty and hollow and not happy, with quests. Why not just make quests where it's like defeat 1,000 Darklings, destroy 10, you know, 20, 30 forts, and give players at least a, you know, 10, 20 rolls of this thing, right? Because the thing is, with the Riches of the Forest event, as most people know, the probability is so low still. It's still only 1.5% chance compared to 11.4 for your epics, and then going down to 23.9 and then 63 to your greens, right? So you can see the chances are really, really horrible still, even for this event, you know, comparing it just to your Universal Artifacts Companion. So it'd be nice just to give players and spenders either like a way to earn like 10, 20 spins, and then once you've earned those 20 spins, you can maybe spend extra gems on it, because again, we know it takes on average around 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 plus gems to try and unlock just one artifact in the Riches of Forest event, and you're not even guaranteed with that to be the artifact that you actually want from it, right? So it's a really weird, convoluted one, right? So this is what I think you can do just to showcase, again, a way you can improve gameplay mechanics in the game already and engage free-to-play players and allow them access to the game, because that's the hardest thing right now, which I think is obviously hard to balance, but it's the biggest thing of Call of Dragons. Free-to-players and low spenders really do not feel like they are heard. They're not being listened to. It's too difficult to play this game compared to any other game because of how much of a massive grind and paywall there is to honestly grind all the way to your tier 5 units, right? So that just showcases here like what we're talking about, like how insane this game kind of is and how you can improve it so far on like the map, if you want to talk about the map and the gameplay, the migration tactics, how you can increase rewards for players, even like there's just so much you could go for. I could honestly keep talking for hours on how you could possibly improve this game to make it a more free-to-play player experience, you know, and lower spender, you know, experience. Just make it more positive for those players, because it's those players that you honestly do need to make this game thrive, because they are going to make the majority of your player base. And yes, you will have the big spenders and the big whales, but those guys generally come because they can see, yo, this game's very popular and it's got really cool mechanics, and yeah, I can obviously spend my way to the end, but I know my friends who might not be able to spend is going to get there in reasonable time, right? So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been me, MrSneakyy. This has been 490 days played of Call of Dragons advice, and we're going to make more videos like this, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it. But that's how I think you can improve Call of Dragons in 2024. There's a few, obviously, areas there, and there's way more you can do to improve this game. Maybe put your comments down below, and with that, you know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and until next time, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.